Welcome to the Sales Leader of Influence show. For sales leaders who lead with soul, spirit, and spine. In a world obsessed with tactics, this is the show for those who know leadership is personal. And here's your host, Bernadette McClelland.
Hello there, and welcome to this week's episode of the Sales Leader of Influence show. Well, this week I want to dive a little deep into a topic that can go one of two ways. You can either be somebody who looks at the big picture or somebody who looks at details, somebody who perhaps looks at possibility or somebody who looks at things that perhaps need to happen. And so where I want to dive into this week is looking at, do you play a bigger game, or is there a small game that you're playing that is actually costing you? And so why I'm focusing in on, are you playing a small game that could be costing you, is because not everybody is this big picture thinker. And this is what I find when I work with people. I might just throw out this, let's do some big picture thinking. Where could you play a bigger game? And a lot of people get stuck with that. It's a little bit like that big question, what's your purpose? It's like, well, I don't know. I have no idea what my purpose is. Well, it's kind of along the similar lines of that. And if you're in a leadership role, which you are, you can plan and you can plot and you can strategize around numbers and pipeline and all of that, because it's data and it's what's expected of you. However, when it comes to you as an individual in your leadership role or in your own, personal role in your life, because it's all tied together, right? And I was to say to you, like, what's the bigger game that you want to play? You may not have an answer for that. For you, it may be too big a question. But for you, it may also not be too big a question. You may have exactly something in mind. However, if you can't put words around that, or you can't paint a picture around that, or you just kind of can't get a grasp of what that vision may look like, that's why I want to go back to the question of, where are you playing small? And what might that be costing you? Because I think with that question, you will feel it. Now, once again, you may not exactly have the words around it, but you will feel it. And so I want you to think for a moment, what does that question mean to you? The question being, where are you playing small? And what might it be costing you? Because for all of us, if we are playing small, there will be a cost. And when I talk about playing small, I don't mean that you need to go out there in the world and be bigger than Ben-Hur and, louder and all of that. I'm not talking about that at all. So inside your gut where it is that you may be playing small. So that's what I want us to talk about today. I want us to have a conversation around that today, because this is what I see with a number of my clients, and I see it in around themes such as money. They're not making as much money as they feel that they should be. Their relationships aren't where they feel that those relationships should be. There's kind of drama around that. Their roles, their leadership roles, some don't feel as respected as they could be, or they may want promotions and they're just not feeling it. They're feeling that they're not playing a big enough game. So there we go. It's like they're playing a small game. So this inability to be able to think bigger is actually costing. And so this is what I want you to think about today, because so many of you put on a game face and you put on your uniform and you go out there in the field and you're missing shots. You're dropping the ball, you're losing players. And this is in your role as a sales leader. I know that that's kind of metaphors. And so, what is the relationship here? The one thing that all of this has in common is got nothing to do with what you're actually doing. It's got nothing to do with what you're doing on the field, in the field, out there in the field with your team. It has everything to do with your thinking. And so deliberate disruption is a theme that you hear me talk a lot about. It's not just a keynote that I do, but it's also my philosophy. It's kind of like a whole way I live my life now. I deliberately disrupt the way that I think, the way that I feel, and the way that I act. And that this for me personally has it's only been a few years since I've kind of really moved in or grown into this way of being, and it's made such a difference. And how I kind of aligned it, if you like, and I'd love to share this with you, is that we are like, we are no different than we're addicts, okay? We're thought addicts. And we're no different than somebody that's addicted to, alcohol or drugs or chocolate or I don't know, CrossFit or anything like that. We are addicted to our thoughts. And so if you understand that how we process data is through our senses, how we know whether we see things or we hear things or we feel things or we taste or we smell, all of that is data. And that contributes to how we experience something. And so we smell something, we smell a nice cake, immediately we're going to have a thought. We see something and immediately we're going to think something. Our thoughts trigger the way we feel about something, and then those feelings trigger our behavior. So we have to take it back to our thoughts. If you are playing a small game and you feel it in your gut, you have to think, okay, what are my thoughts? That French philosopher Descartes, I always get his name wrong, his famous line is, I think, therefore I am. And when you consider that we have 65,000 thoughts a day and most of those are negative, we got a big job ahead of us. As an example, you come in and you see what do you call it, a window-faced envelope in the mail or on your kitchen bench or whatever. What's your immediate thought? For most people, it's so negative. It's like almost, I don't want to open that window-faced envelope. I mean, that's me. It was me. I do not want to open it. Put it in the junk drawer. Then what happens? The compounding, the result of that decision is reminder notices. And then you're going to fine on top of that. Why do we do that? The thinking behind it. Why not shift that whole thought process and just rip the band-aid off, open the goddamn envelope, pay the bill there and then? So this is just, I know it's an example, but this example plays out day in and day out. This whole process, it happens with your relationships. You will ignore somebody until something happens. As a sales leader, you will not hold somebody accountable until the 11th hour, then they resign. You, as a salesperson, you will not pick up the phone until something happens and you're about to lose an opportunity. So we rip the band-aid off. Have a look at what it is that your thought processes are dictating. So I want you to realize that however you show up in one area of your life is how you show up in every other area. So this whole concept around where are you playing small and how is it costing you is a different conversation to how can you play a bigger game. And I really want you to see that. How we do show up, if we, a lot of us have kind of understood that wheel of life, or, segmenting our life into business and health and finances and relationships and all of that. So there's this wheel that's got segments. And so many of us have gone through that kind of exercise. And what we do is we compartmentalize our different parts of our life. So your role as a sales leader will be one little slither of your life. Your role as a parent will be another. Your role as a friend will be another. How you show up in a sporting function part of your life, if you are a part of a church or fellowship or something like that. So you will show up differently in different parts of your life. There will be a component of you, though, that will show up the same way, even though you show up different. So there'll be part of you that will be a people pleaser, perhaps in one part, but that same person will show up maybe in business as maybe a little bit of a micromanager. That could be somewhere else you show up as arrogant. And so what happens is when we compartmentalize ourselves, we are playing different parts. And when we do that, that is another way that we are playing small. The thing is, when we move those compartments, when we become and we can show up as bringing our whole self to the table, that means we are so comfortable with ourselves that we are okay. And it's not that we don't care what people think, it's that we lose the attachment to our relationship about assumptions. That's what I want to get across, because this is another complete part of us playing a bigger game or not playing a small game, is when we can bring our whole self to the table. It's really interesting because yesterday I presented to around 100 people at a finance company, and it was on feedback. That's what they wanted. They're going through a huge merger, and we know what mergers are like. They're messy, they're scary, they're uncertain for people. And so the theme was really around leading with influence. It was around leading with agency and intention. It was for an hour to an hour and a half. Now, feedback is one of those words that it's kind of a nothing word. And when you say the word feedback, people will roll their eyes. And so delivering on this, I had some key points that I wanted to share. I had a number of different examples and stories, and I went to the table. The tech wasn't working because of compliance, and there was a whole heap of stuff. And you know what? We just went with the flow. And any good speaker, by the way, I will always say, if the power goes out, I can speak without slides. And this was an example of me walking my talk yesterday, even though I did have some slides, but it just didn't go the way I wanted it to go. There were no animations, there was no video, nothing. But guess what? You bring your whole self to the table, and you lose the attachment to the control that you have this association with. And so when you can decompartmentalize and you can be yourself, and you can lose this attachment to playing small, that is when you can completely be congruent. And the feedback from the room was there was some tears. I know it had nothing to do with the tech. But the one woman said she felt like she was in a sermon. And I'm thinking, holy glory be to God. That's not me. But she said the message hit home. And so this is when you can be 100% congruently you. That is playing a bigger game. And so I want you to realize that when you can be okay with being who you are, you do not lose any insignificance. Your value is there because there is such an energy exchange that is real. And so, what I want you to do is to realize that we have been conditioned over so many years to play by the rules. Hello, Catholic guilt. And the real thing is, there are no rules. There are no rules. Yeah, the rules, if you want to call them rules, the rules are be curious. The rules are respect other people. The rules are trust yourself. The rules are always be looking at creating something new. If they're the rules, if you want to live by rules, live by those rules. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take away from today, because this is going to help you with your wealth. Trust me on that. It's going to help you with your relationships, especially with yourself. It's going to help you with your health and your well-being and your emotions and all of those things that make us human. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to be comfortable with whatever phraseology that you want, whether it's to play a bigger game or to not play a small game. Okay? Just be okay with however you're languaging that. But always move towards something creative. So I will say, play a bigger game. But how you get there is up to you. However, I want you to be honest, because deep inside here, you will know where you are playing it small. And whether you're a sales leader with a team and you're not holding them to account, or you're missing in action, or you're micromanaging, you know it in here. Write it down. If you are a salesperson and you are not doing what you ought to be doing to bring in revenue, you know deep down inside here what you could be doing better and more creatively. Write it down. Get honest with yourself. Secondly, is realize that you have a relationship, not with people, not with money, not with clients, but you have a relationship with your assumptions around those things. We have the ability to choose. That is what us humans have over anything else, the ability to choose. And the choices that we make today are going to show up years down the track. And we know that. I know I should have been a lot looked after my health and fitness years ago. And it's this thing, the choices we don't make today are still choices. So be mindful of the choices that you make today or don't make today, because they are going to show up tomorrow. And thirdly, here's what I want you to do. I want you to pretend that you are sitting on a bench in a park, and over there on another bench in the same park, you are observing yourself. And you are observing yourself for one morning this week. And I want you to observe the thoughts that you are having and how those thoughts are impacting the way that you're feeling. And then as a result of that, the actions that you are taking or the behaviors that you are exhibiting as a result of the feelings that come from those thoughts. And the thing is, we really only have around 3 to 4, maybe 2 to 3 to 4 thoughts that keep looping and showing up in different colors and flavors and dresses and uniforms, and that keep showing up in different ways. It's only 2 to 3 to 4 stories that keep looping in our head, that keep showing up. So observe yourself and think, okay, in this particular morning I'm watching myself, what is the core story that's triggering those thoughts? Name it, claim it, and then reframe it. Because that is a relationship that you need to, or that I would encourage you to want to shift. So a little bit different today. I hope that you've enjoyed this conversation. This is where it all kind of stems. You can have all the information coming to you every single day of the week. You can download cheat sheets. You can join online programs till the cows come home. But nothing will stick until you really look at the relationship that you have with other things. And so, as I mentioned, deliberate disruption is more than just my keynote. It is something that I weave all the way through the Sales Leader of Influence method. When I work with my clients, this is where we have to start at this level for any change to happen. And we address wealth, we address relationships, we address all of this juicy stuff. We also address influence with your team and role clarity and pipeline and coaching deals as well as coaching your team. And we also look at thought leadership and presentation skills and that. Yes, we have to. But woven through all of that is the whole premise of deliberate disruption, because it has to be. So I'm going to suggest to you, if you want to go to salesleaderofinfluence.com, right at the top, there's a bar there that says that you can download the Sales Leadership Insights Report. Download that. It'll give you a feel for this, and also give you insights for sales leadership and the paradigm shift moving forward. So I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Let me know your thoughts. LinkedIn, email me, anywhere. We're all findable these days. So until next week, have an amazing week. Subscribe, follow me, and we'll speak soon. Bye for now.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching the Sales Leader of Influence show with your host, Bernadette McClelland. See you next Wednesday live at 5 o'clock Eastern.